Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second part in my webinar series where I am building with BoxLang. And earlier today, I was talking to the Ortis folks, and I'm like, you know what? A great name for this series would be Building with BoxLang. So I've had my one good idea for the week. Um, and we'll see where it goes from there. So what my plan is I am going to recap, where we were at the last session, and then talk about what I want to get done today, and then get coding. And let me make sure I can see the chat if I need to. Uh, all right, cool. Yeah, I just saw a message saying that the general chat is disabled. I understand there was some issues last time. Feel free to DM me. I will check those messages every now and then to
Oh
see if we
no.
have
Let me
questions.
let me activate the chat.
Okay.
They should be able to. I'll do that.
Even better. While you do that, let me talk about what I'm building. So my plan was to build a very simple recipe website such that you could go in and you could enter a recipe. I'll put it into a cookbook and then browse those later on the web app. This system was going to have no security. That is something that I'd like to address maybe in a third or fourth session. Basically, you go into the app and you can start creating. I'm using BoxLang, obviously. There's been, I think, major version updates since my last session. And what's kind of cool is that some of the things that were added in the last update or so are things that I want to immediately start using within this application. I'm using MySQL on the back end. Here is, in case you're curious, this is Beekeeper Studio, looking at the database. Don't worry about that query right now, but I basically just have two tables, one for cookbooks and one for recipes. I am going to do something kind of cool in that MySQL supports JSON as a data type, such that you can put like a complex value in there and actually do some pretty cool queries against it. I'm just going to use it as a way to store my complex data, and that is for recipes, both the ingredients, which will be an array of things for adding to your recipe, and the steps, which will be a simpler array of do this, do that, etc. Now, when I worked last time, I pushed it up to the Ortus Boxling organization on GitHub, and the BX demos repository, and it was a folder called webinars slash webinar July 17th. Now, this is unnecessary because it's source control, but I'm working in a new folder. I wanted to have a very separate, webinar one, webinar two folder such that you could compare and contrast if you want. Obviously, things you can do in source control, but I wanted to keep it a little bit simpler. So what you're seeing today will be in a new folder called webinar. What did I call it? Sep 29th, because it is September 29th, obviously. So I am running this application now. I did do a little, just a few small tweaks between the last session and this one, just to skip over some stuff. And let me show you what I have. So this is the main website where the main homepage where we are. Let's go into index.bxm. Let's minimize this a little bit, where I have a recipe service class. I'm asking for the cookbooks because my thinking is you'll start off looking at your cookbooks and then you'll go into your recipes. And I'm basically asking for the recipes. And if there's none, I'm telling the user, hey, you should make one. I have a link that goes into the edit form. And if we click on this, you'll see it is ugly as heck, which is okay. We'll add some CSS later. But for me, like the data model that I had in my brain for recipes was a name, a total time, so I can know, hey, this is a long one, this is a short one. I baked some bread yesterday, and the total time for that is about 6 hours. It's really only about like a half hour of work, but you have to wait for your dough to rise and stuff like that, and etc. If I'm taking the recipe from another source, I want to credit that. And then I have a cookbook selector, which for now is empty because I don't have any cookbooks, but I could type in the name of a new cookbook there. Now, this is the part that I modified from last time. Last time I just had a text area for ingredients and steps. I went ahead and broke this out such that for ingredients, you could do something like 1 cup sugar, 2 tablespoons of salt, and so forth. And for steps, same thing. Now, this could definitely use some UX love here where I can imagine maybe showing 7 ingredients or 8 ingredients and then a little link to add another ingredient. You can even do something where if you type in this last row, it just automatically pops in a new one for you. Same thing with steps as well. But right now, what I have in my code is when I post this to the form, everything should persist. So we'll do name 1, total time 100. Don't worry about the source URL. This will be breads. We have some ingredients. Step 1, do it. Step 2, finish it and hit save recipe. And it reloaded. Hopefully you saw that quickly. And everything is persisted. So now what we need to do, and this is where we kind of mostly where we stopped last time, is get into the validation. So let me quickly see if there's any questions to answer. Nope. All right. So let's look at recipe edit. And to be honest, what I have here is pretty much what I've been doing in Cold Fusion for a long time for simpler sites where the form is going to post to itself. It's going to persist when it needs to. And you can see right there, if form.key exists, save. It's going to persist. And if good, go to a listing page. And if bad, render out some errors of some sort. Just real quick, this is the layout custom tag I built for my site. This is where I'll start adding CSS and top level menus and stuff like that later. I think right now it's pretty bare bones. Yeah, just the HTML. And this is the form, and it's all pretty much boilerplate. You can see I parammed a couple of things up here on top, so like name and title and stuff. And the quote unquote complex stuff, ingredients. I am looping from 1 to 10. Again, we'll need to worry about more ingredients later. And essentially paramming a uniquely identified line item for quantity, unit, and ingredient. Ditto for steps, although steps are going to be a little bit simpler. So what I need to do is basically take all this form data, package it up, and I'm going to send it to my class to do validation and persistence. So I'm going to start here and say recipe equals just an empty object and just start specifying stuff from the form scope. And I could do this all in the declaration as well. I'm taking it easy for now. We will do all of the simple values, and then we'll look at how to handle the complex stuff. So cookbook will be null because I don't have any cookbooks yet, but new cookbook should be a string that we will use. Cookbook. If I see any typos, if you see any typos, I'm doing that on purpose to test you. I'm definitely not doing my own typos. So that's all the simple stuff. Now we need to handle the more complex things like ingredients. So as a reminder to myself, it is a list of form.qtyx, form.ingredientx, ingredient or ingredients. Let's see what I did. Singular. Oh, and unit as well. Form.unitx. So what I'm going to do is basically loop from 1 to 10. And again, that is problematic. We'll worry about that later. And if I see a value in all three, I'm going to persist it. So I will start off by saying recipe.ingredients, ingredients equals a new array. Oops, a new array. And we will go from 1 to 10, basically checking to see if we have a line item for that. So if If form.key exists, qty I, and if there's a length to it, form type qty. I'm happy this was the most complex one. Len, and we're going to repeat this 3 times. This would be a big, ginormous, ugly if statement, but that's all right. One of the things I was kind of fretting about in the last session was how complex this was, but recipes are a little bit complex. So we are looking at unit, and then the actual ingredient. So my assumption is that we'll add some client-side error checking as well to make this a little bit nicer, a little bit easier for the user. But like if you type something in quantity in unit and don't do the ingredient, we're going to assume that's just bad input and ignore it. At this point, we should have everything. So I will say recipe.ingredients, push, no, it's append. I got my JavaScript there. And it will be quantity form qty. I'm absolutely going to check all this before we go any further, before we actually call anything. And ingredient is form. Oof, I love working with forms, really do. Ingredient, I home saw like that. Now we still have to worry about steps, but for the heck of it, let's just dump this. Let's jump our recipe and make sure I didn't screw this up. Very possible I screwed this up. And I should be able to just reload. And oh my God, I didn't screw it up. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. Oh, time did not work. I definitely have a value there. What did I say? Oh, because of that. I was thinking of 2 things at the same time. Recipe.source URL equals form.source URL. All right. So let's do the same thing for steps. Recipe.steps equals blank. And this should be, again, simpler. We only need to check for the length of one value. Oopsie daisy. Let's get rid of that. And yes, and it is step singular. He said with confidence before double checking. Yep, step singular. And we're going to make sure there's a length to it. And we are going to append 2 steps. And actually, you know what? This won't be an array of objects, and it'll be an array of strings. Form, step, I, like that. And that went a heck of a lot faster than I thought it was going to. Let's reload. And the key title was not found in the struct. What line is, let me move this out of the way. Oops, that moved kind of crazy. There we go, hide thumbnail video. All right, I don't want to see myself talk anyway. Title. Oh, there we go, time. Oh, okay, I see what I'm doing. In my brain, name and title, it was time, recipe.time equals form.time. Yes, I know how to develop. There we go. So cookbook blank, ingredients are right, name is right, new cookbook. I didn't do notes or source, steps are good, and the time is good. Ooh, I know what I'm talking about. Thank you, D-Win. Hopefully I said your name correctly. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to send this to the recipe service. I haven't actually built a persistence on this yet, but we will say public function save recipe. And I'm going to use the same name for saving, creating versus editing. The logic will just handle it right. Required struct recipe. All right, we'll do stuff here. And what I'm going to say is, I'll keep that dumper in case I need it later. Result equals application dot recipe service dot save recipe. And in my mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return a structure that'll have a result key. And if it's a success, I'm sorry, it'll have have a structure. Instead of just saying this, I should actually type it out. If result dot status equals success, or how about just result dot saved, and we'll make that a Boolean. Then we're good. We'll say locate the user back home. We'll fix that later. Else, we're going to assume that we have a set of errors. And I will say errors equals result.errors. And we can look for this down here. If variables key exist errors, we'll do something a little bit nice. Bx if uh, P, B, please correct these errors. And I'm going to be lazy and just dump the value out. Var equals error. We can make that a nice little bulleted list later. All right, so my method needs to return saved. And we will say var result equals saved false errors like so. And now we're actually going to do the logic. Now, I'm going to keep it a little bit simple, and we'll say result.key. We don't have a name, the exist name, or result.name.len equals 0, past a blank one, then we will say result.save, actually we're defaulting default, errors.append recipe must include a name and more here, and then return result. So in theory, I can test this and keep name blank, and we should get a nice ugly error message on top. Let me make sure I get to the right window. All right, let's get rid of name and see what happens. Please, I forgot I had client-side validation. So let's hack this for a second here. Because remember, we never trust client-side validation, right? So get rid of the required, and then that should allow me to submit it. And method save recipe not defined. What did I call it? Oh, you know what it is? Yep, I'm only doing this once. So one little hack I do when I'm developing, typically a component like this only needs to be instantiated once. I will instantiate it on request start. And I will say remove before going to prod. I'll definitely never forget that. Let's see what the message is. Question from what is this? So Halal, if I'm saying your name correctly, this project is basically a recipe website where you could go in and you can create a recipe. It will persist it to MySQL, and then you can browse it later. So that's what we're building now. Specifically today so far, I've been focusing on the form where you type in your recipe, and we're hopefully going to get it persisting, and we'll see that on the front end hopefully. So, all right, I am now refreshing that class on every single request, which is bad, but will let me do this. And bam, look at that. Recipe must include a name. So let's just add one more validation. We'll add complete validation later. What did I call it? Total time. We just scroll up, just time. All right, if you didn't pass time or it was empty, and we could also do a sanity check here. So time should be greater than 0 and maybe less than like 999, but we'll keep it nice and simple. Recipe must include time. So we go back here. I'm going to hack this again, get rid of that required. We're going to hack this required time, make that no longer required, and leave them both blank. And in theory, perfect. And again, I later will make this a little bit nicer, but we'll call this recipe one, oops, and time of 100. So now comes the fun part. Again, remember, I'm skipping a lot of validation. So I'm skipping the steps and all that, etc. We're just going to go ahead and do an insert. So we're going to query execute, insert into recipe. Oh, actually, there's one more thing we need to do first, and let's document this. If new cookbook, create it, get the ID. So I will go ahead and add a function called save cookbook, required string name. And this is just going to run a query execute, insert into cookbooks, and insert into cookbooks. And what did I call the column? Name. ID should be automatic. Name, values, value, values. I knew that. Been a little while. Name, make this a bound parameter. So if I remember right, it is the third argument to query execute. You know what? Instead of saying, if I remember correct, let's go to the BoxLang documentation and do a quick look at query execute. And there we go. And nope, params is the second one. I'm happy I double checked. I make mistakes. So our bound parameter will be name, and it will be bound to arguments.name. And in theory, that should be all I need. I do need the result ID from that. And if I remember correctly, their result equal is like generated ID or something. Let's just hack this and let's just see what happens. So return, query execute. So if we pass, this is not required, if key exists, recipe. Oh, and you know what? I think you guys probably, y'all saw this. I was using the wrong value there. This is what happens when you live code CP recipe. So we will say, if you passed the new cookbook and it has a link, recipe that new cookbook len, then we are going to persist it. So let's just save it. Var test. I'm okay if I get a couple extra cookbooks in there. Save cookbook form recipe recipe dot new cookbook and write dump test and abort. So this, in theory, if I did this right, I'm gonna look at the chats. You should thank you, Francois. Yeah, I think it was the R. The R confused me. So in theory, I should get a new cookbook added and it's going to abort. And let's see what happens. And I called it breads. So save recipe. And it was not okay. I typoed. One thing I need to check is getting detailed error in the BoxLang mini server. I haven't noticed that before. There we go. Recipe result. Because I would like that stack trace there. I'm going to figure that out later. All right. It did not return. I could have sworn there was to view data. Let's see. It did. Oh, I remember. So I should speak more clearly about what I'm thinking about. So from what I remember my Cold Fusion days, whenever you did a insert statement, there was a way to get the generated ID. And I am trying to remember. Worst case, I will I will just do a select to grab it. SQL params, options, simple example, using plate, using position. We're not doing that. We're not doing query. We are trying to get the result metadata to get that generated ID. So I will look, worst case, Cold Fusion, query execute, get generated insert ID. I think it may have been in the metadata versus that insert result. Ah, yeah, this. Okay, so it's not returned, huh? That's interesting. I see some people chatting, probably telling me this. Or use query result generated key. So Rodian, I'm wondering generated key. Let's move you out of the way. I'm returning it. I'm returning it, but I'm not using result equal. But let's just, for the heck of it, write dump test dot generated key. Maybe the dump isn't picking it up. If not, I'll use the what I just said, and I'm going to end up with a couple breads. I'm okay with that. Generated key. So, all right. That's interesting. Well, let's try result equal. Let's go back up to my saved cookbook. It is in the third key. Result equals, I'll just call it result, local.result, and make it var scoped. And instead of returning this, let's see what happens, because I don't really need the query object. Let's return result and see what happens. And if this works, I'm brilliant. If it doesn't work, I'm going to blame something else. Unclose curly brackets. Oh, yeah. Every time I see the bad color in Visual Studio Code, I need to remember I did something silly. All right, let's see. And generated key, and it's 3. That's perfect. So really, I'm probably only going to care about the PK. So we will do that. And then we will say, since recipe.cookbook, that's what you have when you select an existing one. So we can overwrite that here and say recipe.cookbook equals the result of saving that. And I should have some validation so that I don't have multiple breads in there. I'm fine for now. Not even validation per se. I would say if you typed in the name of the existing cookbook, it should just pick the existing one. Don't throw an error. Just, don't abuse the user for a simple thing like that. So we have that handled. Now we can try the actual persistence. And let's just say var insert. I don't think I need the result, so I may just throw this away later. But insert into recipes, and we have name, total time, source URL. What else did I say? I'm skipping the complex stuff. Total time, quick notes. That's the only other one. And then the complex ones are ingredients and steps and values. And I believe I can make this look a little bit nicer like that. Values, we will do name, total time, source URL. Oh, cookbook ID FTK. Is that what I called it? Come on back up here. Yes, cookbook IDF, cookbook IDFK, cookbook IDFK. All right. Notes and ingredients, steps, and cookbook IDFK. And close that string like this. And now we get to the actual data. So name will be recipe.name. I probably could have just I would say I could almost just use the recipe object and skip all of this. I kind of like seeing it spelled out, especially since I realized I did recipe.time, not total time, but that's all right. Source URL, recipe.source URL. Notes, yep, I see the typo there. Source URL, notes, recipe.notes. Now, from what I remember of MySQL JSON support, I think it's just going to work. I may need to convert it to a JSON string myself, but let's just go for it. Let's see what happens, right? Recipe dot ingredients steps, recipe dot steps, and the last one is cookbook IDFK recipe dot cookbook. All right, let me right dump the insert and abort. And in theory, this should just work. Let's say I have no one chatting furiously to tell me I screwed up. And all right, this was not found. Ah, source. There you go. All right, that's fine. I called it recipe.source. I should make these match. Not going to worry about it. Function query execute helps if I spell correctly. Execute. Oops. Save it. And can't cast. Yep. So it does need me to JSONify that first. So I will say to JSON if I nope, that should convert both of these to JSON strings. Like I said, MySQL should just be chill with it. You said with confidence. All right, it was an insert statement. I didn't expect anything back, but let's see if this actually worked. View data. Oh, look at that. JSON went in just fine. I didn't use source. I was doing a lot of insert statements, so cookbook being 7. Just for the heck of it, let's view data here again. I know I need to refresh. And I'm going to do a quick query to get rid of 1 through 6. So we will do file, new. I don't use this enough. That's the issue. Just want to do a new query. There we go. Add query. So delete from cookbooks where ID not equal to 7 and run this. 6 rows affected. So in theory, that should get rid of my extra cookbooks. Awesome. And we may be done. So let's actually clean this up a little bit. I'm not caring about the result per se. Well, okay. I keep going back and forth. Ideally, when we're done, we get that result back and we want to go load, like take them right to the completed one. So we will use the same technique we used here. Don't need this. We do need this. And we will, if we're using result.saved, we will say result.saved equals true, and we will add result.recipe ID equals, oh, can't do result. We'll do ins result for insert result equals ins result generated key. So in theory now, this little person here could actually take you to the final thing. But let's just see, let's just go back to our homepage and see if we actually have cookbooks. And we do not. That's interesting. We have cookbooks. Did I screw up my delete statement? No, because it's right there. I have 7. I have 1 cookbook. We go back to the home page. If cookbooks record count greater than equal, well, yeah, that should. Like, what are you doing? Select star from. That is Interesting. Well, debug by Right Dump. That's my favorite Right Dump cookbooks. Okay, so I screwed up my logic. Let's see. I do have BFF cookbooks at record count greater than equal to 1. Oh, I don't know how to read. It literally says, show them here. I'll do this later, I promise. Thank you for now calling that out on me, calling me out on that for being dumb. We will, I will not be dumb one day, not today. So again, this is going to be kind of gross. Query equals cookbooks, EX loop, and I realize I have one more O up there. Oof. All right. Actually, we will just do a simple little output loop like so. And so we have cookbook. It's a name. Let me just reload, make sure I didn't screw that up. There's breads. And now we could actually start building a recipe browser. So if we do, we'll just do cookbook.bxm, ID equals ID. Again, this is very old school. One of the features, and I'm just looking at the time, I don't think I'll have time to do it today, but BoxLang mini server supports URL rewrites natively. So what we'll probably do in the next session is give a nice clean URL to the cookbooks and the recipes. So you're not seeing like, question mark ID equals something. You're seeing something that's a little bit nicer. But let's see if that worked. Make sure I didn't screw that up. Great. I don't have a cookbook file. Let's add that real quick. New file, cookbook.bxm. I'm going to copy from index.bfm because it's going to be pretty close. And oops, accidentally closed the thing. So first thing we'll do if URL if not URL.key exist ID. More validation here typically would be required, but we'll keep it easy for now. Location. We'll go back to the home page like that. Otherwise, cookbook equals application get cookbook URL.id. I should be checking for numeric. I should be checking for greater than or equal to 1, etc. And we will put the name here. Let me just keep this plain for now. And write dump cookbook. I'm not worried about this particular one at all. This should be incredibly simple in my recipe service. We'll add a new get cookbook, required string ID. Select star I know is bad, where ID equals ID, and we are looking for ID will be argument. We're binding to that. And then that should be great. I know, we were just in the docs. There is a return as struct, which is I use for um, whenever I'm doing like a single row response. And where is it? Data source. I know one of the return type is struct. All right. Let's see if I can do this all by hand without screwing up. Return type struct. And that should be it, he said with confidence. The requested key was not, oh, because I did not make that an actual string. Now it's definitely going to work. I stake my reputation on it. You must define a column key option when using return type. I don't remember that from my Cold Fusion times. Return type, DB, array, or struct. I need to define a column key? Maybe, oh, maybe they're assuming it's going to be a array of multiple items. You know what? I'm going to punt on that and just leave it as a query. We'll come back to that later, or I'll fix it in the service. I'm fine with that. Reload. There it is. There's my query. So we will add that to the page. The cookbook is add a BX output. If I can type correctly, you can tell I'm getting typing fatigue doing it live. I'm making more and more typos. But cookbook.name. All right, we're almost there, almost to the point where we can show this. Cookbook breads. I can get rid of that dump on top. And what I'm going to say now is get my recipe service, get recipes for cookbook. And again, URL ID. So this is going to be another little simple one. Get recipes for cookbook. Get recipes for cookbook. Required string, I'll call it CBID, keep it short. All right, select star from recipes. We'll order by name, but where cookbook ID FK equals CBID. And this will be CBID equals arguments.cbid. And I see my typo, CF. And poof, I did a lot of typing without checking. It does not match the, oh, yeah, typo, yeah, required. And by the way, if I alt tab too fast, please let me know. And request the key arguments D. I am typoing all over the place. All right, CBID, CBID. This is absolutely going to work. I have no concerns at all. And of course, I didn't actually use it, but it didn't throw an error. But let's actually do the same thing. We'll just say, no, not even in header. We'll just do a UL again. That's kind of ugly, but BX output. I'd rather use an array, but that's for later. Recipes, BX output. And then one closing UL statement doesn't need to be in the output. Actually, I will do this to make it a bit more obvious. All right. Whew. Another LI. We will have a link to somewhere. And it is going to be name. All right, let's see if that works. Heck yes. Recipe one. So we have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to do one more page, the recipe page. I'm just going to dump it to screen. And then we're going to go back and look at edit again if we have time and see if the editing experience picks up on the existing cookbooks. And then we also need the ability to edit a recipe as well. But let's just do a basic recipe, BXM ID equals ID. Once again, I really want to use the BoxLang mini server URL rewriting. That would be great, I think, for our next session. But we can pretty much almost copy and paste what we did for cookbooks, because it's going to be pretty similar. And actually, while I'm here, let's fix this title for the cookbook. Cookbook.name. That way the title is dynamic. For recipe, we'll do the same thing, but we are going to get an individual recipe. Get recipe, URL.id. This recipe will also have a name and recipe.name. And I don't need to say the word recipe here. We'll just say recipe.name. And for right now, bx dump var equals recipe. All right, let's see what happens. I need to add get recipe. Save this one. Go into a recipe service. We are getting one particular recipe. So this argument would just be ID, select star from ID, where ID equals ID, ID, don't need to order by, and then ID, and then ID. Wow, it's a lot of ID. And let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. All right, table recipes. That recipe does not exist. It is recipes. What did I call it? Oh, from recipes. There we go. And reload. Look at that. Yep, and there's our JSON data. So I would still need to change that to real data. And this is where I would go into right here. Let's actually make some notes here because we are running a little on time. So first things, I want to figure out. There's definitely an argument where I could say return a structure and it works with one row. So figure out how to get a struct back. And also, we want to automatically convert the two JSON fields into real data so that back in our BXM, we can iterate over the structs and just treat that as data. So convert ingredients plus steps to real data. So we have about 9 minutes left. I don't see any chat questions. So for the heck of it, uh, let's see if we can maybe fix that structure issue, right? Like, could have sworn result type was just going to work, and it didn't. Return type, and it's possible that I'm just remembering incorrectly, but for the heck of it, query execute return one row as struct. And let's see what happens. Yeah, it's absolutely that I was forgetting that I had to do a get row on it, which would be fine. So for the heck of it, let's say get row one. Let's see what happens. Come back here. Look at that. Oh, that went a lot faster. So we need to fix get cookbook as well, but instead, I'm going to say recipe equals like that. And then let's go ahead and fix ingredients. Ingredients equals recipe dot ingredients from JSON and return recipe. And let's just see if fix a case on that. Doesn't matter, but it matters to me. Let's see if that worked. Oh, I love that. I love that. And by the way, I didn't show it, but when I was researching this about 2 months ago, you can do like JSON parsing in your queries. Like for example, find me recipes that have sugar and like how much sugar, etc. I just think that's really freaking cool. Yeah, this is an example I built where I'm looking for low sugar recipes, and that's all MySQL. I have my buddy Scott Strohs to thank for introducing me to all these cool features. But let's go ahead and fix steps, and that'd be a great place to stop. Recipe.steps equals recipe.steps from JSON, and then verify, and y'all, we have a recipe. Not very well presented, but so I had a to-do file from last time. So we did error checking, kind of. We did saving the recipe. We did a recipe view. We don't have edit. We don't have UI or user management. But I would say next time, finish recipe view, support editing. I still want to make sure that like my drop down for cookbooks work. Change get cookbook to return a struct with no, I'm sure just to return a struct by using get row, and we will use SCS search and safe rewriting. Has some ideas on that as well. So again, all of this code will be in the BX Demos GitHub repository. And you know what? I will share that here. It'll be under the webinars folder. And let me go into chat myself. It'll be here in a folder called, again, webinar September 29th. And I think that is it. I'm going to stop sharing. And if there's any last questions, please feel free to ask. I can stick around for 4 more minutes. I do actually have to run at noon, but if you have any last questions, hit me up. I'll give it a minute. If I don't see anybody typing, then I will just say goodbye and all that. Oh, thank you, Francois. Thank you all actually for attending. Everybody was here. Thanks for finding my typos. As I missed them, I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to reach out if you have some feedback. And I am going to get with Ordis to schedule the next one because I want to finish this. I want my own little recipe website.
Mhm. We have a question from Carlos on YouTube. I'll paste it
Okay.
here.
Thank you. Is there an AI agent that works best with BoxLang? No, because I would say any AI service would work fine with BoxLang. In fact, there is a BoxLang module to work with AI stuff, and I'm not sharing my screen anymore. But what I will do is I will share the link. 1 second. Where'd that chat go? Where did that chat go? There it is. So you can literally add the BoxLang AI module, and this module simplifies working with AI services. Now, you still need to get your credentials and stuff, but check out that module. I have blogged about it and done videos on it. But if you, for some reason, you don't want to use those modules, that particular module, working with like Gemini is incredibly easy because you just do HTTP calls and BoxLang has that baked in. So yeah, there's no service that's particularly better because any of them should be easy to use within BoxLang. Hope that made sense. Definitely reach out to me if you have any more questions. I've realized, you know what, I shared the URL in the Zoom chat. If you're on YouTube, you won't
I
see it, but
Yeah, I
oh, you
said
got
it.
it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
That's all I've got from me. So thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye.